Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Almost Dropouts podcast. I'm your host, Daivik, and today I have Neil and Parth, two students at the University of Waterloo. Neil and Parth, you want to introduce yourself, starting with Neil?
Sure. Hey, Daivik, I'm really happy to be here right now. It's pretty cool. I've been wanting to get on this podcast for a while, so it's pretty nice. Yeah, so I go to the University of Waterloo for system design engineering. So I currently just finished my 2A term, so I'm a second year. And I recently just landed an internship at Apple for an engineering program manager intern position for the Siri analytics team. So, I'm really excited for that. And it's basically, how the Siri team kind of uses analytics and data to kind of measure the success of Siri and to make decisions based on its integrated products. So, yeah.
Cool. Thank you so much. And Parth?
Awesome. Yeah. So first off, thank you so much for having both of us here, David. Yeah. So for me, I am studying mechatronics engineering here at the University of Waterloo, and I have kind of had a few different co-ops, and all ranging from IoT development to natural language processing, machine learning at Deloitte, and now currently I'm at Tesla doing software engineering for distributed systems.
Yep. And so, as you guys can hear, these guys are doing very well, and they have a lot of past experiences. They're also in the engineering programs at the University of Waterloo, so they've had previous internships. They're doing great internships right now too, and yeah, I think to start off, let's talk about Augment. And so, Augment's a very recent development, but let these guys explain what Augment is. I'm part of it, but these guys started it. So I guess, starting with you, let's talk about what is Augment.
Yeah, sure. So, the way we like to, so before we even jump into it, so Neil and I, right after exams, we were like, yo, we want to give back to the community and we want to help everyone out. And we ended up sort of saying, let's do coffee chats. And in that 1 week, we ended up doing like a total number of 40-hour plus coffee chats, like cumulatively. And in that, we learned that a lot of people had very similar questions that people were asking us kind of over and over again. And we were like, hey,
Mhm.
there's a need in the market, and people don't really know how to approach things. For, let's say, LinkedIn, how to make a good resume, how do you just approach your career in general. And so Augment really came to fruition when we realized that people that a lot of the things that we sort of take for granted and we just say, yeah, this is common sense, it's actually not common sense. And so we kind of just expanded from there and launched Augment to help other students.
Yeah, and
Yep.
just to
Go
add
ahead,
on
Neil.
to that, the whole goal of Augment, like the whole mission of it is basically interns, empowering and elevating other interns slash students, and I think that kind of gives like a really unique perspective, because I know like a lot of people see on like LinkedIn, we see like a lot of people giving great advice, right? And that's 100% true, and they deserve a lot of credit, but there's not many people who kind of, give that fresh student experience, like we're a team of 10 plus, we're adding some people too, but we're a team of people from, all unique backgrounds, like from different companies like Facebook, Microsoft, Tesla, Apple, different schools, different degrees that we're studying, right? And I think what that allows is that, we can kind of make content that kind of targets all types of students, right? And I think that's what makes us really unique and really
Mhm.
special. And some short-term things we're looking forward to, and like we're really like looking forward to some of these things that we have down the road, is like we're gonna have some discussions and interviews with like really awesome professionals. So we have one coming up with like a management consultant, right, from Deloitte. Just like talking to these professionals and kind of understanding, okay, how did you get here, right? And kind of
Mhm.
we're gonna put those videos out for people to see, right? We're also planning to do some panels and live Q&A. So we have some pretty good stuff planned. And like at the end of the day, right, all we want to do is we just want to help students kind of reach their maximum potential, right? Especially in their young careers. So yeah.
Yeah, and I think the biggest difference to point out, like between other resources, is that Augment is sort of trying to be from the ground up. So because we are interns and we know what questions that interns are, the questions that interns are looking answered. And so whether it's providing our perspective as interns and as people have gone through the system, or talking with other people who are in industry, I think what makes us unique is that we can go in and ask those questions that a lot of people a lot of people our age are wanting to know, and try answering it for them. So yeah, I think it'll definitely be great, a great initiative, and I'm really looking forward to some of the content that we have coming out, and the great team that we have as well. I guess that sort of goes into a bigger question. And so you guys talked about how you started off with coffee chats, and Augment developed from there. And just in general, I started to notice that a lot of students started asking, should I start networking and utilizing platforms like LinkedIn? How do I begin? And even why should I do it? And so I was just wondering, like, based on your guys' experiences now, what do you think the value is for students to start networking and utilize platforms like LinkedIn?
Yeah, I guess I can start, and then Parth can carry on. But I think it's everything. Like, especially like nowadays, it just seems like the world's getting more and more competitive, right? I feel like a few years ago, you didn't even have like high school students on like LinkedIn, or even like many interns on LinkedIn. Now, like interns, and I see high school students who have like such a big following and stuff like that. And I think it's a really powerful platform, not only just to network, but kind of to share your passions, right? And then if your passions align with other people, then you kind of build a network through that, right? And I think that's super
Mm-hmm.
important because expressing what you like to do and expressing what you're interested in, you're more likely to come into contact with the people who like the same things, and then from there you can kind of look into job opportunities. So that's kind of how it goes for me. And like, yeah, like LinkedIn kind of gives you the ability to like you basically get to filter out exactly what people you want to look at in terms of roles. Like if you're aspiring to be a PM, you can easily just search up product managers, right? And you have a
Mm-hmm.
whole list of them, right? That you could probably like look at their experience, see how they kind of came up to where they are, and you can even ask them if they'd like to chat. So it's definitely a powerful platform. I think Parth can talk more about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure, Parth.
Yeah, for sure. So I actually am on the other side of LinkedIn. I got into the platform really early on. I made a LinkedIn account in like grade 11 because I was involved with some junior
Wow,
achievement stuff, which is
that's a long
like
time
you.
ago, man.
Yeah, man. Honestly, it makes me feel dates me a little bit, but it's all good. So I've really found that the power of LinkedIn has kind of two folds to it. One is the networking aspect, and you sort of, get to know more people and you grow your network, you meet new people, you understand how they work, what their aspirations are. And I think it's just a great opportunity to grow and find these different opportunities as well. But then the second half is that you can also utilize LinkedIn as a platform to kind of give back,
Mm-hmm.
where I feel like even I didn't really get started on it until like I started working at Deloitte, which was last term. And then I started to sort of see, hey, LinkedIn is a pretty cool platform. I can sort of, utilize it and give back to the community in my own way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you hit it pretty like square on the head there. Where I think, like, whenever students ask me, what do I do for LinkedIn? I think there's a big difference like there's two sides of the platform, and one is being a content creator and using it as a networking tool, or the other is utilizing it to make connections in industry. I think it's very distinct, because I think a lot of people think that to get started with LinkedIn you have to start making content, but I think like that stuff, I don't think that's necessarily true. And I know for myself, before I started making content on LinkedIn, I was just utilizing the platform to make industry connections and to get insights into different professions that I wanted to get into. For example, like software engineering or product management. And I think that's the power that LinkedIn brings, where it allows you to connect with people throughout in the industries that you want to go into. But what that doesn't necessarily mean is that to connect with them, you have to make content. You can reach out to them personally and ask them specific questions if you want, without even writing a post at all. All the post does is it allows you to connect with people and share those ideas. But if you don't necessarily want to do that, you don't have to. But that being said, there is a lot of value to doing it as well, because you get to meet so many different individuals and ideas that you might have personally kept inside. You're able to sort of have those on a bigger basis and talk about them with more people than you could have thought about. But Neil, I'd love to hear what you have to say as well about that.
Yeah, no, I fully agree with you. Like, I know tons of people who haven't posted once in their life on LinkedIn, but they use it
Mm-hmm.
every single day. They love reading about what other people are posting. They use it for connecting to people, reaching out to people for jobs and networking, but they don't actually post content, right? And I think that's
Yeah.
fine because, if you actually look at the structure of LinkedIn, one aspect of it is that it's kind of like an online resume and portfolio, right? As
Mm-hmm.
soon as you kind of go to someone's profile, you see their work experience, volunteering experience, people who have endorsed you, said things about you, right? So that's available to anyone on LinkedIn, right? And that's millions. So it's like that. Yeah, but like like you said, I do think that making content, especially content that whether it's helping each other, writing about things you're passionate about, or intertwining them and making like both, doing both things. Like for example, I like writing about product management, so I kind of do my insights on those, but also help others. Like, okay, this is how you can be a better product manager, right? Um, Ever since I started doing that, and I didn't even use LinkedIn that much. Like I started way later than Parth. I think I started like posting like maybe like early this year, maybe once or
Mm-hmm.
twice last year. But I never used LinkedIn. But as soon as I started posting content and trying to actually, as long as I thought that okay, this will bring value to at least one person and posting it, uh, the feedback and the response I got, it's so like inspiring, especially when when people are connecting with you and they're adding notes saying like, hey Neil, I love the piece you just wrote. I want to follow you and follow your journey and things like that. Like and those messages. So it's definitely motivating, and I think that's a really cool aspect of LinkedIn that not a lot of people talk about, especially from the content side, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Your thoughts, Parth?
Yeah, I completely agree. Like even for myself, right? I used to only use LinkedIn to reach out to people and sort of connect with them, try to get on these jobs and really make sure I can get a good co-op is sort of the way I was approaching this. But
Yeah, that's
recently,
that's what most people do. But yeah,
especially in Waterloo, that's just how it goes, you know?
yeah,
But
exactly.
yeah, so like recently with Augment and even before that, I really, really wanted to make content for other people. And I've always kind of wanted to do it. I've just been held back a little bit by school and just time commitments. And there's a little bit of a beauty in kind of being stuck inside home for the entire day. Yeah, I have work in the mornings, but then I also have a lot more free time to kind of put into my passion projects. So yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, no, I 100% agree with you guys, and I think yeah, just what LinkedIn like you guys mentioned, I think it really depends how you want to use the platform. It's like, for example, like the one everybody knows, Instagram. Like you don't have to necessarily be a big content creator on Instagram. Most people just scroll through their feed and like every post or go through explore, and so you won't hear anything about from most people on the platform. But they're still looking at different things, and if that's the way you want to use the platform, then so be it. That's fine. You don't have to make content to get a lot of value out of the platform. You can get that value out of the platform as is. But with the content creation, what I think it's really good is, especially on something like LinkedIn, some experiences that we have that we like had to go through to develop professionally or in a career wise perspective, or even personally, that can help people out. And I think that's one of the biggest things that students don't realize, in my opinion, that even the experiences that don't seem like they're too big or that you didn't have to learn too much to get to a point where you can share it can make a big impact for somebody else because they don't necessarily know that, and by sharing that content you can help them get like avoid the same mistakes that you made in the past as well. And so definitely like I think that's it's really great, and I think that's one of the big points about Augment as well. That these we've learned these different tips through our experiences, so now we want to share them so that people don't have to necessarily struggle to figure those things out. They can utilize those tips in order to get further in their career search. What do you think, Parth?
Yeah, I 100% I'm on you on with that one. And again, like that's sort of part of the reason why we ended up creating Augment is because a lot of the things that were coming up in these coffee chats, like, hey, how do I kind of reach out to this recruiter? How do I message this engineering manager? How should I even frame my resume? Is this correct? Is this wrong? A lot of the things, like Neil and I were really chatting about this after, and we were like, dude, this is like very basic things. But then we also realized that there isn't really a place on the internet for ground truth of of these kind of things for interns specifically. There's a lot of things for new grads and things you can do just for career wise in general, but there's nothing specifically for interns, and that's where we really wanted to come in and help others out.
Hmm. Yeah, for sure. What do you think, Neil?
Yeah, yeah, no, I fully agree, right? Like, when we were talking about like Augment, and when we came together and we were like, we're getting the exact same questions because Parth has more of a software engineering background, I have more of a PM background, so we were just like, let's conquer and divide, talk to these students, who are more interested in PM. I can talk to them, and then you can talk to the more SWE centric people. But the questions were a lot of the times very similar, right? So after these coffee chats where we spend like 40 plus hours, we're like, okay, this is unsustainable. Like we can't spend like 30 minutes with everyone like all week talking to people. It just won't work, right? So what is
Hmm.
a way where we can kind of build a platform, build a community of people who can, who are experienced and who can answer these type of different questions through their experience and through what they've learned in their journey, and kind of bring it all together through content that we can just put out there and everyone can see, right? And that's kind of how the whole idea of Augment really came. And yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great initiative, like I said, and I think one other thing that I think we should talk about is you don't like like I mentioned sort of previously that everybody has those experiences that can help people out. I think one other thing we should discuss is, you know, even if you aren't part of Augment or you aren't a content creator, how can you still help students? Like, how can students help each other out? And I think, especially during these times, everybody can help somebody out in some certain way. But what do you guys think about that? Starting with Neil.
Yeah. So I mean, not to give a shameless plug over here, but you could join and follow Augment. um, because the whole point of Augment is like kind of help other students and things like that, right? Um, but I think just on a community level, like you can always do things. Like I see people on LinkedIn, especially now because of all this COVID-19 going on. Like even though they've never posted before, they may not be like with a group like us, like like 10, like an entire platform like Augment, right? Um, they still offer like, hey, like like I've seen like posts about like I just got accepted to a Tesla internship or like this, but I understand that the times are rough, and if anyone wants to contact me for how I got my internship, I'm always willing to help, right? I've seen a lot of posts like
Mhm.
that, right? So especially in times of distress, I think a lot of people are offering to help.
Mhm.
And especially with like portfolio, I see a lot of designers too talking about like if anyone needs help with portfolio editing and stuff like that. um,
Mhm.
yeah, and I think one thing that is kind of underrated, or not maybe underrated, but what people don't think about is like if you were one of the people who didn't weren't able to secure a job because of COVID-19, or you lost your job, right? One thing that I think would really help is if you kind of did like a side project with other people, because
Mhm.
you're kind of like running a project together, and the experience that you learn, like, because even through Augment, like the things that I'm doing with Parth and the rest of the team, it's almost like running a startup. Like we have like weekly like sessions together where it's basically a retro, right? Where you talk
Mhm.
about what we needed to improve on, what we did well, right? We track analytics and like how we measure success, right? These are all things that are really useful, right? So one thing that you can do is just like by helping each other out is like create initiatives where you can pair people up to kind of do projects together, and I've seen that happen as well. But I'm
Mhm.
pretty sure Parth can expand more too.
Yeah, I can tackle this from a more software engineering perspective as well. So for me, the way I see to make use of this time that we're in, and not even just to make use of the time, but just to help each other out, I'd say doing a side project is probably one of the best things you can do, especially in this situation. For two main reasons. One, you kind of get to learn new technologies and um, build something to put on your resume and just show off. But two, you get to do a longer running project. See, the thing with hackathons is that you don't really have a lot of time to build something, and so the project isn't really fleshed out. It's more like a prototype. But now you kind of have the next few months or who knows how long really, but you have a good bunch of time to sort of put aside and say, hey, I'm going to build this project out, get a few friends together, run it like a real company, make a Trello board, make a Jira board, track
Mhm,
different things, and actually decide who does what, and really push that entire project out there. Either
mhm,
deploy it on the cloud, or make a web app, or put it on the app store for people to
mhm,
download it. And that is really what's going to help you stand out the next time you're applying for jobs.
mhm. Yeah, no, 100% agree with that. I mean, doing side projects is a great way to help out each other and try to grow your experience. Especially right now, if have lost an internship because of the COVID-19 situation, that gives a way for both of you guys to give and grow. And so, yeah, I think that's a great tip there. And I think the second thing I would add, and Neil sort of touched on this, but just give time to give back, especially right now. Like people really people really need that support. And so if you have some time to help a first year out, like if you're in an upper year, and help a first year out with some of their like a resume critique or something, or even as a first year to give some information to high school students coming into university, because I know like a bunch of open houses were canceled and stuff like that. This is the time to do it, and more than ever, like your experiences are very valuable because they can't get that information. They have to get that information virtually now. They can't get it in person like they could have before.
Yeah, I totally
Um,
agree.
yeah, and yeah, definitely. Like I think there's a lot of ways students can help and should help, and I think definitely. I'll say this right now. Like if you are an upper year student and you feel like, you can help out with resume critiques and stuff, feel free to reach out to me. And I'll try sending some people over to you for those resume critiques because I think that would be a great service for people. And so yeah, definitely. And I think, all right, shifting gears now. Um, let's talk about if somebody does want to build a personal brand on LinkedIn. So, I was talking about, or not even just LinkedIn. Let's just talk about it in general. But beforehand, I was talking about, how you don't really need to do all of that type of stuff to utilize LinkedIn if you don't want to. But let's say you want to start creating content, whether it be on LinkedIn or other platforms. What is something you can immediately do to sort of test out the waters? And how can you start? What do you guys think? And I guess let's start with Parth. Parth? I think you're muted.
Oh, you're muted, buddy.
Oh, yes, I was definitely
Yeah, all good. Yeah.
muted. Yeah, so I was saying that, um, like when I started with posting content on LinkedIn and kind of trying to build this personal brand, um, I instead of posting something which was very career focused, I wanted to post something which was more kind of general and just kind of life advice. So I think like my first post was about drive and passion and how you can sort of figure out what you want out of your life. It's a very kind of it was more on the philosophical side, to be honest, and kind of how you
Mm,
go about finding that. But I think that's really what drew me to writing more. And it was not about necessarily, how do you get the best internship, but just like how you can improve your life. And that's sort of where I started. But I think where people should start is post content that they want to either read or they want to write about and share with the world, and where they think that they have expertise. So, for example, let's say you're a machine learning engineer intern, and even though you don't want to necessarily do machine learning on your next co op, sharing
mm,
that knowledge with other people not only makes you known and credible for being knowledgeable about machine learning, but it also can help other people, just grow and learn in the space that you already have the expertise.
for sure. What do you think, Neil?
Yeah, no, I totally agree with Parth, right? Like, and just to add on to that, right? Like, I know I touched on this before, but posting content that is around what you kind of love and like what really you find like that makes is that you're pretty passionate about. I think that's also really important, right? Like one person I kind of look up to in this sense, and like I enjoy his content really well is like I'm pretty sure like a lot of people know him, but like Prashant. right? And he, like, he's not really posting anything that's like, oh, like, this is how you do well in interviews, or like, this is how you get this job, right? He
Mm-hmm.
he talks more about the product and the strategy of like companies, and like, why was this a good move for this company, and like, what I predict will happen with this one, right? And it's so cool because that's such a unique thing that not a lot of people provide, and like, he's made that his own niche. So now
Mm-hmm.
that, I know he recently got 15,000 followers, right? And congrats on that. And a lot of those followers of his, is that like, they're all like product managers. They're all people who are really interested to see like, oh, this is like really cool. Like, I enjoy learning about like why companies do these things, like the people making these executive decisions, and like the whole, underlying reasons for them, right? And I think it's really cool. And I think that's how you kind of build that personal brand. It's hard to kind of cover everything, but if you kind of stick to a niche, and like, you have experience in something that allows you to kind of, or you don't even have to have all the experience in the world, right? Like, what's to say that you're actually the best at something, right? But if you're passionate about something, and you like talking about it, and it's very specific, and you enjoy doing it, and you start posting about it, it's only natural that the same people who are interested in the same things will kind of follow you. And
Mhm.
yeah, like, I know it's worked well with Parth, right? And he provides value in that type of way, right? In terms of like
Mm-hmm.
interesting content, not just like offering help or advice. So that's also another contrast to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. And I think my approach to it, like when I started my like creating content and stuff on LinkedIn, for me it was more like I had all these great ideas that I thought I talked about with people, or not maybe I think they're great, but that's not necessarily great. But I interesting ideas that I thought I wanted to discuss with people.
No, they're definitely
But
interesting. Don't worry, Daivik.
thanks, man. But like I had all these ideas. I kept having like talking with people on one-on-one discussions with them. But I wanted to get like I wanted just to see what other people thought about it as well, just beyond my one-on-one discussions. And I think with creating content, one of the biggest things to do is just take a leap, honestly, because as much as you can plan it out, you honestly start to figure out a lot more things once you really start. And then you're just going to figure out, like, yeah, do I like posting like this, or do I want to try experimenting with this? And that's perfectly natural. Like Neil mentioned, like if you develop into a niche, that's great, because that's what you love doing, and that's amazing. But if that doesn't necessarily, in my opinion at least, I'm happy to discuss this, but it doesn't necessarily have to start off with that. I think a lot of the first initial experimenting with content is essential in order to grow and sort of figure out where you want to aim your content and what you want to make. Because at the end of the day, you can make it for other people, but like for at least in my experience, it's not going to be good unless you actually want to make it and you feel good making that content. But I'd love to hear what you guys think about that too. Starting with Parth.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think, if you don't really, so here's what I want to say to that. I think if you're making content because you're like, yo, I need to get this job, I need to sound smart. Yeah, no, that's not going to work out. Don't like just forget about it. Just use LinkedIn to kind of reach out and network, and that's about it. Don't make content
You're
because you're
like,
going to find
nah,
it
nah,
short. Exactly, right?
it's
That's
over.
not that's not going to work, man. You
Yeah.
really need to post that first, article, or to just even make your first post. You want to have to do it not to, necessarily get a good job, but because you want to put yourself out there. And even if it is to sort of, get a better job or to build credibility, that's completely fine. It's just more like the way you approach it has to be in a very specific way where you're not making it a chore, and you're sort of posting it because you're passionate about it. You're not putting it out there. Even hell, even if you're passionate about getting a good job and you're posting content which you enjoy and you would want to read yourself and other people would want to read, if you're posting that out there just so you can get a better job, that's fine. You're still helping a bunch of people. You're still getting more credible, and you're just growing yourself as a person,
Mhm.
even though it's for getting a better job per se. But if you're, let's say, if you want that better job, but you're kind of like forcing yourself to post about things that you don't like at all, there's no point in doing that.
Mhm. What do you think, Neil?
Yeah. So, this is like, I'm probably like, just to contrast with Parth a bit, but like, personally, I don't think that LinkedIn will like actually like for example, if you're a PM at Amazon and you start posting really great content on LinkedIn, right? I don't think it'll help you get a promotion in Amazon or anything like that, right? But what I think LinkedIn is really powerful for is what Parth mentioned about credibility and about building a following of people who are interested in what you post, because that can help you later on. Once you start posting a lot more valuable content, that credibility can definitely get you on like a good list with recruiters, right? And
Mm,
a lot of people can reach out to you, and like you can reach out to a lot of people, and as soon as they look at your profile, they're like, okay, not only does he have experience working here and here, but he's really active about LinkedIn, and he's passionate about product management. He's passionate about machine learning. He's passionate about these topics, right? Like I would really want this person to kind of work in my company in this department because he seems like he's so interested in it, right?
mm,
But at the same time, the way I see it, I don't think it's sustainable if you just post just for that opportunity to like kind of network with these people and kind of get the first interview like that. Like I think you need to totally actually enjoy what you're writing about,
mm,
to actually do it for long term, and then though you can reap the benefits of it, right? But completely agree with what Part said in the sense that your focus shouldn't be about getting the job, getting the interview, right? Focus on giving value and giving back to your network, and then the benefits will come later. That's how I kind of look at it.
mm. What do you think, Parth? I know you wanted to do a follow up there.
Yeah, so like to the first point, I'd say that it's not necessarily about getting the promotion, and I'm kind of tackling it from more of an intern perspective, just because that's sort of where the listeners of this podcast are going to be. But like if someone really wants to move into machine learning per se, and they've been doing a bunch of machine learning projects, posting about those on LinkedIn is definitely going to help you, get sort of the credibility you need to land those machine learning jobs. Just because it's more visible and people can see it, recruiters can see it, you're just going to be more legit in just like a very broad sense. And I agree 100% that, if you're posting for getting that better job and you're just going to stop, that posting is not sustainable. It might get you to one point, but if you really, really want to grow as a content creator and you really want to, become a big name, that's just not going to happen as well.
Hmm. Yeah, that's interesting things to think about. I think. I mean, I think the biggest thing to say, like talk about this. It's not definitive. Everybody has their own experiences. We're just talking about like based on our experiences, where what we have seen on the platform, and sort of growing a personal brand. But I'm gonna stick with what I said, that you experiment, see what you like doing, what you don't like doing, and I think like Neil and Parth mentioned, you should really be passionate about what you're posting about, and you actually should want to post it. I think going in with the intention of just posting for a job, it might work
Exactly.
out. Don't get me
Yep.
wrong, but it's not sustainable for the long term, and also people are going to associate your content with something that you might not necessarily want to make. And so if that's what ends up happening, then I really don't know how long you can post for and want to do that for. Um, but yeah, I think it's definitely very interesting. Okay, I think that was a great discussion. Let's shift now to another, talking more with the student community. So, I think one of the more latest developments is that a lot of fall term for universities are moving to online only. And I know specifically for the fall term, one of the biggest blows of that is, you know, the sense of community that you grow, especially coming in as a freshman in your first year with the university, and that can be like with orientation or just throughout the semester. Like I know for myself, a lot of the friends I made in my first semester are some of the ones that stuck throughout. A lot of them also I've lost in contact with, but there are like a few people in there that who are sort of like lifelong friends. And I know one of the biggest things about the fall semester coming in as your first year is creating that sense of community with the university. So I was just wondering, with all of them now shifting to become online, uh, how can students try feeling part of the student community, even though they're going to be remote and in different places around the world? And I guess let's start with Neil for this one.
Sure, yeah. So I guess you can take the glasses half full approach, and because of all this COVID-19 stuff, a lot of people are much more open to kind of having these virtual conversations, and a lot of people are now on their laptops, on their devices a lot more, right? So I think you can kind of take advantage of the time people have to kind of interact with you. And because people are home so much, I feel like that need for socializing has gone up even more because you're just stuck inside with the same people all the time, right? And I know me and Parth both, like, ever since, like, in the last few weeks, like, our personal response rate has gone up a lot, like, in terms of, like, people replying to us, the people interacting with our content and things like that. So I feel like take advantage of the platforms that are out there, like LinkedIn. And it's not just LinkedIn. Like, there's many platforms that can kind of suit your career path. Like, Facebook groups is like an underrated one. I feel there's a lot of
Mhm.
Facebook groups that are specific for certain things, right? Like product management, right? One for like internships, one for resume critiques, right? Use those platforms and kind of like interact with people there if you need help with one of those things, right? There's also one that Augment interacts with a lot, which is Intern Club, which was recently launched, right? And
Mhm.
basically, it's basically a Slack channel with over 1,000 interns around the world, and we have different channels talking about different things, right? Like product management, design, right? We even have like a food channel, like fun stuff like that, right? And that's how
Mhm.
you kind of build like a sense of community, right? And you can interact with people all around the world, right? Yeah.
Mhm. What do you have to say about that part?
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think, having that sense of community, especially in the time that we're in, is super, super important. And Intern Club is really good for that, especially just because of people are here in that Slack community from literally around the world, and it's really cool to sort of, get to interact with them. We even have like Game of Thrones nights. It's pretty neat. To tackle your question from more of a, you know, freshman kind of point of view, and not having classes, one of the questions that I've been seeing a lot is like, yo, should I defer the year, just go to school like later? My answer to
Mhm.
that, like before you even ask it, is no, don't do that. And the reason for that is
Yeah.
there isn't really any point of, pushing forward your degree, because what are you going to do in the meantime? You're literally a high school grad. There are no jobs out there. Just go to school, get that year out of the degree done, and sort of
Mhm.
keep your career going ahead. Now the main problem with that though is that you sort of miss out on the first year university experience. And I agree. It is super unfortunate that you won't kind of get to have the exact same experience as what we did. However, there are ways you can sort of mitigate that. And if there's something like, I'm sure that there are a lot of sort of initiatives, and I've been seeing a few as well, where universities are sort of having like an sorry, see, I do too much augment, man. It's
Yo,
just
too much
always on my
augment,
head.
man.
E orientation, where you're having like a few frosh activities kind of done online, where you can just kind of chill from your home and kind of do those. But you
Mhm.
will eventually still get to have your frosh experience. You will get to kind of meet other people, and you will 100% have that experience. Maybe just not now, probably
Mhm.
later. And what you can do in the meantime is, network as much as you can, talk to people even in your classes. Bro, if you can get on a Zoom call with all these people, like do something which is fun, can create that bond in that sort of manner. For me, like, I can relate this to my remote work that I've been doing. So I started for Tessa remote 2 weeks ago. um, I was supposed to be in California, but thanks to COVID, I'm sitting in Toronto. I mean, it's a blessing and a curse at the same time.
It's not
So
that bad in the summer, man. I'm just happy it's not the winter; it's the summer term. But
yeah, I'm praying that I could go in the winter.
yeah,
But
I'm feeling that too, man.
I feel that. Yeah, no, for sure. So what I was saying was that what I've been doing is like I've been setting up a lot of one-on-ones with the people I'm working with, just so I can put a face to the name. People who are commenting on my PRs, telling me to change my code and stuff. And I think you could really apply the same approach to just talking and meeting with new people. Just
Mhm.
like whether how we do with our coffee chats, you could literally do that to make new friends, and just chill with people, kind of vibe with them, do Netflix party or something. There's a million things you can do now. Like, technologies evolve far enough for you to be able to not feel as far apart.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think I love how guys both sort of hit both notes where like professionally there's a lot of communities that you can be involved in, like Neil mentioned, and also with Intern Club and stuff. There's like that's professional and you can also be a social type of thing. So I think you guys hit it pretty well there, where utilize technology to your advantage. Of course, it's unfortunate. I can't personally say it would be better to do remote than in person. Of course, in person is just a different feeling, but we got to do what we got to do right now. And especially like with deferring a year and stuff, like Parth mentioned, of course, it's up to you, but I'm also of the opinion that you might as well advance your career, especially like if you can't travel right now. For me, at least, if I did take a deferral for a year, it'd be travel or something. But if you can't
I
even do
agree.
that right now, then I really don't see the like if you're just doing it for the social aspect, I don't see that. I don't see that necessarily being that big of a concern right now because there's so many other things that are growing out of this. With the communities growing, the intern communities like Intern Club, or even the more local communities like Facebook groups and Messenger and stuff. There's a lot of things you can do to still, still bond with your classmates and with other interns and students around the world. And I think honestly, one big thing is you guys are gonna have a story to tell. Like, when I started university and when we all started university,
Oh
guess
yeah.
what? We were doing it remote because we couldn't sleep. Like that's a story, man. And as somebody who's been in Waterloo or in university for like 3 or 4 years now, I can tell you those stories are the ones that like half the time we're just rehashing old stories between me and my friends. So,
Oh yeah,
uh,
man. I,
so
I, I
I
know I know I know a lot of that.
Yeah,
yeah,
and
yeah,
just for me too, like looking back at it, like 1A was rough, man. Like honestly, if I could pick, like staying at home and doing school while I have like my parents to make me food, I'm just chilling. It doesn't
hmm
sound too bad, So there's some good sides to it as well, I feel like.
There are pros and cons. You get like stay at
Yeah.
home. You get to build up your sort of really determination to get your schoolwork done instead of sleeping in every single day. Man, exact. So I think you might be able to tell that exams were a little rough for me, but we made it. We passed.
bro, you're telling me you don't want to go to RCH every day? Go
Yeah.
RCH, man. That's where I want to go.
Oh
Man,
yeah, and the commutes in the winter too, like you
oh
skip
man,
all of that.
uh,
Like it's so, and getting up like for those early exams and stuff like that. Like I know
8
I've heard
a.m.
like I've heard for at least I know a few people who are in school for the summer term, and like to do an exam they give you like a 3-day period to actually write it. Like that's pretty flexible, and I think it's not bad. So yeah, there's some good
Yeah,
sides to it.
my class is actually like so I'm in stream 4. My counterpart for Trons, which is stream 8s,
Mhm.
they're a term ahead of me, and they literally do not have exams. They just have assignments throughout the term. And honestly, like I feel we could probably do better grade wise just in that sense than taking a final exam. So it might just be a plus point in many different ways.
Yeah, man. Oh man, I wish I had like so. Sorry, now we're going a little off topic. I my 2A term, I had 7 or 8 courses. Like EC 2A was notorious for being super hard, and I
Oh yeah,
really wish I was
ECU too,
online, man. Because as much as I bonded with my friends throughout that term, don't get me wrong,
crying.
that was a hard term.
Bro,
It
I
was the
feel like they
tears.
made
It was the
they made
tears.
1A so hard. Like 8 classes, like from 9 to 4:30, like with like a 30-minute break in between. Like looking back, I'm like, how did I do that? Like I don't even remember. Like I swear, like all the negative aspects, I feel like I just cleared out of my memory because I didn't want to
hmm
think about it. Like it was crazy. So like now I feel like it's actually a lot easier. So yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. But like those, you will eventually have these experiences where you stay up all night with your friends, kind of just chilling, doing stupid shit. And now sitting at home when I FaceTime my friends, this is the kind of stuff I talk to them about. All the stupid things we did in
Yeah.
school, and
Yeah.
you will get to experience those as well.
Don't worry, guys. You'll be able to go to Phil's sometimes. Don't worry.
Yo, I still haven't been.
You haven't been to Phil's?
Nope, I have not been to Phil's. I've
Oh
been
man.
to many others.
I don't know why I'm saying you haven't been to Phil's like it's something like amazing to go to, but it's definitely something like if you're in Waterloo, you have to go to Phil's at least once, or
Yeah.
else you haven't done your degree
Well,
properly.
they can't even go if they're first years, right? They're not old enough.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess
Yeah,
I have to wait
you're
till
not. You,
one.
you guys aren't literally not missing out. It's fine.
Okay,
Don't
okay,
even
okay.
worry about it.
Yeah, no partying, guys. You're supposed to study all the time.
Yep.
Waterloo, you
Yeah.
can't party. You can't do any
Welcome,
of that.
welcome to Waterloo. Welcome to Waterloo.
All right, perfect. Well, I think let's wrap it up with one last question. So, of course, like if you guys want more tips on what to do during the pandemic, we're gonna have a bunch on Augment, a bunch of exclusive content on there as well with all our creators. So you should definitely go follow them and the official Augment page. But I think just to wrap it up, let's just do like a general, and this can be academic, social, etc. But what tips do you guys have for what students can do during the pandemic? And let's start off with Parth.
All right, sure. So I'd say like three main pieces of advice that I'd like to give you all. First thing is we kind of talked about this a little bit earlier, which is to build that long kind of side project, whether it's software engineering or product management. Do something with your time where you can sort of push that out into the world and say, "Look, I made that. It's pretty cool, and hire me." That's like basically a pretty easy way to say that. However, with this point, the second point that I'd like to get to is um, build consistency, and you know you can really perfect that in this time. So one thing that I've personally been working on is working out at home, and I've been slowly trying to build that up from 1 day a week to 2 days a week to 3 days a week, and it's tough, but that's where like the mental resiliency comes in, and you kind of have to push yourself. And this is the perfect time to sort of build this resiliency and consistency. The last point I'd want to cover is you should really focus on your mental health as well. Like the first 2 points, I'm saying, build consistency, do a side project. If you're not doing this, you're a loser. Nah, that's not right as well. You're
Yeah,
I think a big thing that a lot of people will kind of overlook is, this is a very weird time for all of us. It is okay to feel anxious. It's okay to kind of, you know, be uncertain of how the future is going to be because there are uncertainties. And so, always prioritize your mental health as much as you can. Like for me personally, every time I start getting stressed out because of exams, I stop studying and I just do something else. That might not be the best advice, but that's kind of how I tackle my mental health and how I stay
yeah.
sane at Waterloo. But
Hey,
yeah,
man. Yeah, sorry, go ahead. Go
definitely
ahead.
mental health is important, and you should
Yeah.
also be focusing on that.
Before I add my thing, actually, I like to hear what Neil has to say.
Sure, yeah. Totally agree with Parth and like the side project thing. Like especially if you weren't able to secure a job during this COVID-19 stuff. Especially like, because I know like a lot of people ask like, oh, how can I do a side project from like a PM perspective to kind of like improve my product management skills, right? And like honestly, like creating anything from like concept to creation, right? That kind of stuff is all like about like product management, right? And like deciding what features to use, doing an impact risk analysis, right? And you can like simulate the things that a product manager would do, whether it's an intern or like a full-time, and kind of simulate those things and talk about in your resume when it's back to like applying to jobs. And just to touch on that point, like I know a lot of people are worried right now that like they're like anxious about like, oh, I wasn't able to secure a job, or like this COVID-19 stuff is going to ruin like my future job opportunities or things like that, right? And like I remember
Mhm.
on LinkedIn I saw basically I think he was like a recruiter. He was a recruiter from LinkedIn, actually, like working for LinkedIn. And he basically had this post, and he said like to all the students and to all the people out there, like, don't worry, like we're gonna understand, and we're not gonna penalize you for the situation that's occurred. Like don't be worried about getting the next job offer and not having enough experience and like this gap where you didn't do much. Like us as recruiters, we're gonna understand. So I think people should, like, going back to like parts like mental health thing, like it's okay, and like trying to make the best out of the situation is honestly the best thing you can do right now, right? And I feel like one
Mhm.
part of that is like also build long-term relationships with people. Like if you have a goal that in 2 years, like you want to be working as an intern in like Instagram or like Facebook, right? Start reaching out to these people from Facebook. So like, hey, like I'd love to kind of like get some knowledge on like what your day-to-day role is at like Facebook, and like what kind of things you do, how can I improve my skills, right? And
Mhm.
later down the line, when it is time for companies to hire back interns, although obviously like I think Facebook's already hiring interns and stuff like that, but for the other companies, right, when it's time to kind of open back up again and get back to where we were before the crisis, right?
Mhm.
You'll have those relationships with those people, right? And those were genuine ones. You weren't just asking for a job. You were honestly trying to improve yourself, right? And if there's a spot open in their team, or you want to reach out to them like, hey, is there something open for us or for me? Chances are they'll at least consider you for an interview, right? So I think those are my two tips that I'd give.
Yeah, I think you guys hit it like pretty well on the head there. I think the one last tip I guess I have to add on top of that is just utilize this time for whatever you want. And you guys both sort of touched on this, but like if you want to use this time to grind and and help further yourself in the internship search or your career, then do that. But if you want to spend the time like refreshing yourself, getting ready for like the next grind, or just taking this time to like sort of clear things up, then do that for all means. Because like honestly, like I can speak for myself, like this time I have with my family doesn't come very often, and so I'm taking full advantage of that. And yes, I am advancing my career and stuff, but if you like take advantage of whatever you want to take advantage of and use this time however you want to, this is the time to do that. And it's like I had another guest, so my friend Sid in a previous podcast, he mentioned this as well. But do the thing you wanted to do when you said that, well, if I had more time, I would do this. And whether that be, if I had more time, I would spend more time with family. If I had more time, I would do nothing and just play video games. Like just do whatever you wanted to do when you said if I had more time. And I think that's one of the best ways to utilize this time. As personally, that's what I think.
Yeah, no, I fully agree. And like going back to what I
100%.
said, right? Like I feel like recruiters will understand if you're not making like leaps of progression, right? And like they expect like this much experience from you, you know? Like I think this is a good time for everyone to take some downtime and really just, appreciate the things that you do have and kind of focus on the things that, you've been wanting to do. So yeah, you hit it on the nail.
And I think, honestly, one of the biggest things I've learned throughout this 4 years is that, as much as my career is important to me, I think things have really been put in perspective for myself. And so, I think it's important to keep your career in perspective, but at the same time, make sure you have the other things that are really important in your life also balanced out. Because it doesn't just have to be career, 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 unless you want it to be, of course. But that doesn't just have to be what you have to do in order to succeed necessarily.
Yeah, man. Like,
Perfect.
I talk to a lot of like upper years and stuff, right? And like people who've graduated, and the number one thing they say that like in terms of regrets is that they wish they kind of slowed down a bit. They wish they kind of didn't focus on the career stuff, the school stuff, and kind of were like in the moment, enjoyed more with like their friends and their family and stuff like that, right? So yeah, I totally agree with what you're saying.
Hmm. Great. Yeah. Once again, thank you so much, guys, for coming on. Uh, Augment official. Go follow that. It's a great community of collaborators and of intern collaborators who are sharing our experiences. And we have a lot of new exclusive content coming out. So definitely go check that out. And yeah, Parth and Neil, you have any final words? Parth, I guess we'll start with you.
Oh man, final words. Just like
Don't worry, you're not dying or
it,
anything, man.
it's quarantine. It's quarantine season, Rona season, whatever you want to call it. Take the time, do what you want to do. Don't listen to other people. Don't even listen to me if you don't want to be honest. Do what you want, do what you love. But the only thing that you should do and the only thing you should listen to me for is listen to the rest of this podcast and listen to everything else that David puts out. But then also follow Augment Official.
All
Yeah,
right.
for sure. If you want to, if you actually want to like, because although we're shouting out our own platform and all that, right? The whole goal is to basically help, the viewers and like help other students like us, right? And we're coming out with a lot of good content in terms of like, panel discussions, commonly asked questions, interviews with professionals, right? So if you're interested in that type of stuff and just want to learn about different fields and basically, how to kind of develop your skills and land internships, anything like that, definitely give it a follow. And yeah, we hope you learned something.
Great. Thank you so much, guys. And yeah, stay tuned for the next episode. And take care. Peace.